Welcome back, everyone, to the FisherSearchGroup Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Fisher, and we put together a special episode for you today. Typically, we're talking to sales leaders across the U.S. in the medical device space. I thought it would be really fun to bring together some of our placed candidates from 2025 to talk about what they did to land their dream job and tell it to all of our prospective candidates who are going to be interviewing in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead in 2026. It's almost like a little note from the 25 class to the 26 class. You landed your dream job, and it was not by accident. I would say everything that people in this episode did have been deliberate steps and actions that set themselves up to get an offer. And so instead of me being the one coaching you and prepping you, which I probably still will do, I want you to hear from the people who did it themselves to give you some pearls of wisdom. So Bradley, I want to jump in first with the pre-interview portion. This is the prep. Now, we obviously provide you with information, some handouts, some links, but then it's ultimately up to you to decide what do you want to do there on the preparation. So just take me through, I don't know, maybe just the top thing that you did that you found to be most helpful during the prep phase.
The preparation, I think everything that you provided and shared was immensely helpful. I definitely dove into the website because I wasn't incredibly familiar with the organization. So I tried to read even about their mission statement, their values, who are the leaders of this organization, where did they come from, what is this company really setting out to do? And I tried to get a sense of what the culture was like through that research, and then certainly what is the product itself? Is it differentiated? Do we have advantages? What will this be like in the field as we look to grow? Now, another thing that I did, I actually went on YouTube and did some research there to try to find any videos about the product and how it was being used. I saw the strength of the brand and the brand equity and just that clinical buy-in that was very evident to me when you have clinicians making videos specific to this product. So I did want to make sure I had some level of familiarity with how the solution would unfold in the clinical realm.
I do remember going through the process with you and just being very keen on doing my due diligence. I like to call it my homework, so to speak, when it comes to the interview process. And specifically with this company that I'm currently with, it was understanding the market, understanding the customer, understanding who I'm going to be catering my product to. So a lot of what I did was, one, understand, is this product even something that I want to sell? Two, understanding the competitor, because, there are competitors out there for your product. And then three, getting to know who your interviewer is. Very important. And that is part of the prep work.
Yep. So key point number one that I just want to pull out right there is you talk to the end users even before the first interview.
I was rusty. One of the great things that I did to pre-prep was talk with my wife, had her be my interview person, looked at myself, in the mirror, looked at myself within the Zoom camera to make sure not only was I articulating myself as best as I possibly could, but also what my facial expressions looked like. Did I show interest? Was I engaging? But then it came down to talking about yourself and going over your career, making sure that I was concise, at the same time being very specific and intentional about the steps that I've taken in my career, the successes that I've had within my career, and why I was able to, achieve those successes in a concise manner that made sense, not only for what I did, but also how it can contribute to the company that I was going to.
In preparing for my interview, I did everything you suggested we should do. I clicked on all the links. I went through all the questions. I kind of giggled at myself while I was doing it because it's not my first interview process. But the more you told me about the company you were courting me for, the more interested I was in the company. And the more I dug into the company, the more interested I was in that job, to the time that I got to interviewing with the employer, I was positive I wanted that job. And since I hadn't been preparing mentally leading up to connecting with your group, I found all of the resources very beneficial and helpful and felt well prepared for the interview.
Prep is always the most important thing, but definitely part of the process with you and your group. Elise was great, kind of gave you the website, gave you the ins and outs, having that guidance from you and your team. The ownership falls onto me. And so investing that time, because then once you do that prep work, you can actually prove to the interviewer that you've put that time, effort, and energy where that's where most hiring managers want to see. Overall prep time, it was, just on the website, it was an hour. But also besides that prep time, I did engage with other folks within that organization. So that's where you can really get the insights from the company as well, is digging into the actual reps that are there at the organization as well.
Okay, that's great. So you actually did a little bit of more due diligence. You reached outside of the sort of obvious network of people you'd be meeting with, and you went directly to some of the reps to see what the culture was like. So that sounds like that was very helpful for you.
Absolutely.
Next, we're going to jump over to the actual interview itself. What do you think happened, or what did you do in the interview differently, which you believe separated you from candidate to like a front runner?
It was investing the time into my resume, knowing my resume fully, where I can go provide a quick elevator pitch to the hiring manager, and then being able to provide that story of who truly I am and why I would fit in that organization.
Connecting with that end user, understanding the gap in care, because I know the product just enough to speak to it and like where it fits at these certain hospitals, because I'm in the critical care space. I'm in ICU and ED. And being able to draw that, and also a parallel to what I currently do at the company I currently worked at. And I think the parallel drawing with the end user understanding, it showed the hiring manager that not only have I done my homework, which I'm hoping most candidates at this point in the second, third, fourth interview have done their due diligence here, but it showed that the application and knowledge is how I've like my alignment and why I'm aligned with the position that they're interviewing for and why I'm the right candidate.
Take all of the steps seriously and don't take for granted even sending the thank you, doing it timely, watching your grammar in these things and double checking it. You should be buttoned up, what you dress, the environment that you're in, how the sound is going to come across. You probably don't want to be in the middle of a busy Starbucks or an airport. And it's back to that authenticity point, Brett. I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing and acknowledging things in your career that you've learned from, or maybe you would have even changed, or that you want or need to do better now. And the reality is nobody's perfect. And I think that's really opening the door to that conversation of, I'm showing you my genuine self, and I'm comfortable enough to disarm and just fully disclose the things that I do well, and maybe where I would have some challenges or I'll need some help as I onboard.
Answering the questions that were going to be asked. And you all were very clear on, ask for that next interview, close your first interviewer. It took your instruction, applied that to what I would naturally bring to the table. And then, of course, at the end of that first interview, I did ask for the second interview, and I was reassured that I would be moving on.
Great. And that's the close that we're talking about.
One of the things that I constantly do is you're looking for buy-in signs, seeing if what you're saying actually makes sense and that they're getting it. You want to make sure that there's an alignment. I studied the outline, right, of what the interview, what the role is, trying to find keywords, and made sure that those keywords, I placed them in my talk track to show the alignment. So once I did those things, I saw the engagement and I knew I'm getting more and more buy-in to move forward within the progress of the interview.
Let's jump into the third segment. We are talking about the offer stage, advocating for yourself. Listen, most of our candidates are working with me or another recruiter or whoever, and we are advocating on your behalf. But let's just say we're not there for a second. You get to the final stage. It's always going to be between you and someone else. What are you thinking about communicating in that last step?
When you're getting close to the finish line, I truly believe that's when you put the gas on more. You have got to, in my estimate, finish the race. I wanted to make sure that I wowed the socks off them, right? That there was no hesitation in their mind that I was the right candidate for this job. I'm asking them qualifying questions. I am asking them, do they see me as the person that can lead this team? If not, what examples can I share with them in order to show that I am the right person? You don't have it in the bag unless you have it in the bag.
I simply stated why I'm the best candidate, why I want them, but then I simply asked for it. I am not afraid to ask for the sale. I'm not afraid to ask for the job. I'm not afraid to ask for the commitment. What do you have to lose? What do I have to lose by asking you for the job? How can we make this work? What do I need to do to get the job offer today? Because this allows them to address any reservations they may have.
It's important to continue expressing your level of interest in the role and how effective that you believe you'll be in the position, and also the fit that you're seeing within the organization. When I received my offer and read through it, I was pretty content and happy with what was included in there. There were some additional things that I asked for, and that was just through a respectful conversation with the hiring manager. And one thing that I was careful about too, and this is about just being genuine, being forthright. The holidays were coming up in my situation, so I did disclose, hey, I was planning to have some time out of state with my family. I want to make sure this is okay. Things like that. I think it's important to talk about early and just make sure that everyone's on the same page.
I was interviewing with an individual closest to the top of the company, and he was more so a challenge to close. I would use the questions out of the different questions that you give your interviewing candidates, like, is there any doubt left in your mind that I am the right candidate for this position? He was unclosable. And so, that's hard when you're in your final interview, when the interviewer will not give you any sense of where you stood with them. But you immediately went to my HR team, because I shared that with you after that final interview, and you came back to me and kind of gave me peace of mind.
Yeah, everyone's different, and being prepared to come to the table with a variety of different objections, and they're not going to give you the close. But let's just pretend that the hiring manager is not around anymore, and it's now your decision, because they'll always deflect and defer, and they'll try not to answer it. But it could also be a little bit of a test.
Typically, once it gets down to the final interviews, it's two strong candidates. And from that standpoint, I knew I wanted to stand out. And from standing out to get this regional sales manager role, I wanted to make sure I went the extra mile. And so ultimately, I created a playbook, a reference guide of references, for that hiring manager who they can reach out to, and also kind of walked them through my story, and as well as a quick, 30, 60, 90-day plan to help elevate myself within the eyes of the hiring manager.
Let's jump to the offer. Anything stand out to you in the offer process? It was a little bit more straightforward, I think. But in terms of like advocating for yourself or negotiating, anything that you want to pass along to our candidates interviewing this year?
It's important to continue expressing your level of interest in the role and how effective that you believe you'll be in the position, and also the fit that you're seeing within the organization. There were some additional things that I asked for, and that was just through a respectful conversation with the hiring manager to say, here's where we're at on this item. This is what I'd really appreciate if we could see some flexibility on, and here's why. This is the reason, this is what I feel that I bring to where this makes sense.
I go back to that parallel, comparison, just because it shows them, psychologically speaking, that you as a candidate would just be, not easy would never be the right word I would use here, but it gives them that confidence that they know they're putting their trust in as someone that they don't actually know past the interview process. They don't know who I am in real life. Your belief in yourself, the product, but also that you know what you're doing and you deliver that with full confidence, because they will pick that up.
At this point, it's feedback. I'm asking them qualifying questions. I am asking them, do they see me as the person that could lead this team? If not, what examples can I share with them in order to show that I am the right person? My goal was to go ahead and get that offer, to have that final conversation with you that's saying, hey, they're looking to offer.
So don't take your foot off the gas. Lean in even more.
So I asked, is there anything, any doubt in your mind from anything that we have covered here today that I should elaborate on, and any questions left unanswered that I should answer? Is there any doubt left in your mind that I am the right candidate for this position?
I want to make sure I went the extra mile. You want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward, because we know everyone's going to give 110%. So you got to make sure that you're going that extra mile every single time, especially if this is a job that you want.
Is there anything that you would tell yourself who is preparing right now that you would do differently, or any last minute pearls that, looking back on the whole process, you think would be helpful?
The wool was not pulled over my eyes. The expectations were there. I prepped before. I made connections with people in the organization. And so then once I onboarded, it was better than expected. Everyone is excited to have me on board. I've been there roughly almost 3 months now, and we're excited to have our national kickoff meeting at the end of this month.
Go out there and do something great.
For me, I feel lucky and blessed. It is exactly what I was looking for and what I expected I was getting. I knew what I was getting into. They were honest with me, and I am happy.
Working with you and Elle was just fantastic. I'm incredibly grateful to you for all of your help and advocacy throughout the process. And I feel like this has landed in such a good marriage, between myself and my new organization. And I wanted a home. I wanted a home, and I believe that's what I found. So my plan is to be here for a good while.
Culture here is phenomenal, and it's everything that I've ever asked for. This is my dream device position. One, because I understand the patient population, because I have family members affected by seizures. I've had seizures before. And two, I know the critical care space like the back of my hand. And three, the culture just somehow seems to get better and better and better. And so it is a breath of fresh air that I've finally stepped into a company where I fully resonate and align with, and it's just so nice to be here. I can fully say that I've arrived at where I want to be in my career.
Studying not only the products, but studying yourself and making sure that you feel confident in talking about yourself, because that's a real challenge. You're not good at this. This is something that you work on, you learn how to do. And so if there's anything that you can do, you just keep, like Michael Jordan, you keep shooting the shots.